In the winter of 2012, my little brother Chris passed away at the age of 41. In the spring of that year, I got a phone call from a local school teacher who asked if I might be willing to come down and share Chris's story as a type of kindness type presentation for his students. To which I was extremely honored, but I told him I just didn't think I'd be able to do that, because I was ready to get too emotional talking about my little brother. But see, he kept working on me, and the reason he did was because Mr. Arrington knew my little brother Chris's story. Because you see, when my little brother Chris was born a long time ago, he was born very, very different. Because you see, when Chris was born, there was a little tiny piece of his brainstem that didn't develop. It just didn't show up. And so as Chris started to grow up through his life, he was never able to walk, talk, change himself, or feed himself. And my mom and my dad actually did that for him for 41 years, which is another whole story in itself. But anyway, the reason Mr. Arrington kept working on me was because he knew that one thing that everybody knew about Chris, that Chris loved to do more than anything else in the world, which was if you were to come over to our house, into our living room, and sit on our couch, Chris was going to find a way to crawl across the floor, climb up onto the couch, get right up next to you, and snuggle. Just snuggle. That was just who Chris was, and that was just what he did, And I mean to tell you, it did not matter to Chris who you were. Chris had no qualifiers whatsoever. It didn't matter to Chris, what color you were, where you were from, what you thought, what you believed, what you looked like, your gender, your age, nothing. It just didn't matter. All that ever mattered to Chris was you were sitting on the couch, so you needed a friend. And so that was a story that Mr. Arrington wanted his kids to hear. So long story short, he finally talked me into it. I agreed to go down. Dad goes with me for support. We get down to the school and go in there. And of course, it was the little kids, the elementary age student. And I'm a former middle school and high school teacher and coach of 25 years. I'm not as comfortable with the little ones. So anyway, we did a short little program, and unbeknownst to me, off to the side, Dad snapped a picture during the program. And the kids were just so nice, and they were so receptive that they made me feel so comfortable. I didn't get emotional at all towards the end of the program, but when it ended, I honestly didn't know for sure if they really understood much of what I was saying because they were so little. And sort of told myself, I'm never going to do that again. It was very stressful, I think. But so anyway, the program ended. The kids got up out of the floor, headed back to class. I went over to the side, and while I was packing my stuff away, that's when a little boy started making his way over to me. Brown hair, glasses. His name was Matthew, because when he came up, he introduced himself. He asked if he could tell me something, and I said, well, sure. And at that point, he reached up, he whispered into my ear, and he told me that he thought that Chris was smiling that day, and that he hoped I would never stop sharing his story. And then he reached up, he patted me on the shoulder, looked me right in the eyes, and he said, don't you worry, mister. It's going to be okay. And so Dad and I get in the car to go home. I'm trying to process all that. We get home, walk into the house, and Mom's there waiting for us. Now Mom didn't go to the program that day. It was a little too much too soon for her. She and Chris, they were so tight. She had taken care of him every day of his life for 41 years. She was a little hesitant about going to the program just yet, but she really wanted to hear how it went. So we walk into the house, she's standing there waiting for us, just smiling, grinning ear to ear. We're like, what's gotten into you? We hadn't seen her smiling like that since before Chris had passed. She said, go look at the computer. We go over to the computer, look down at it, and a handful of the kids from that program had sent some messages. None of them left their name. And one message in particular said that they'd like to thank Chris's mom and dad for taking care of him all those years, because without them, he may not have had a story. And that was the day that one positive sentence from a 9-year-old kid who I didn't even know, and one positive sentence on a computer from someone who didn't leave their name, changed everything. As a result of of those kids. I started traveling anywhere anybody would have us to share Chris's story, anywhere we could go. And not too long ago, we even got invited down to a high school in Tennessee. And I had no clue until after that program was over that a handful of the kids at that high school were the same exact kids that you just saw in the program at that very first program. They had just all grown up. Those kids changed me and my family's life simply because a few of them went out of their way one day to say something kind and write something kind at a time when we desperately needed it. So the more I started thinking about it as time went by, the more I started thinking that, those kids were willing to do that for us. I wonder if they might possibly be willing to do it for each other. And that's when the idea for the Uplift Kindness Waltz kind of got started. So I just took the idea to my son David. He's all grown up. He's a technology kid. He's a BIT graduate of Virginia Tech. He can code, build software, websites. He's worked in major IT companies. I said, Dave, I have an idea of something I would like to take to the kids if we could. I just don't know how to do it. And he said, well, what is it? I said, I would like to build a platform just for an individual school where all the kids in the school could go to post positive, uplifting messages about one another. And I need the system to 100% guarantee that only positive messages of that school standards would ever become visible. And he looked like, yeah, that's impossible, Dad. And I said, and buddy, I really like it to be built one other way as well. I'd like it to be built so that if a student or a parent, a teacher, anybody were willing to go post a positive message, I'd like it built so that the person writing the message doesn't get any credit for it. No likes, no shares, no retweets, no reposts, no recognition of any kind whatsoever. Because if they wanted all that, they could do it on regular social media right now. But if they were to use this platform, it'd be for one reason and one reason only, just to help someone else. And he looked at me and he said, Dad, do you think kids would even do that? And I said, I know a few that did. And they changed our lives forever. I wonder if they'd be willing to do it for each other. So we went to work. My wife, Danita, she was all on board right away. She has a background in elementary education, art, graphic design. She created the logo. And together, the three of us, along with some heavy support from our daughter, Jenny, our son-in-law, Kurt, and their two little ones coming up, getting ready to head to school here soon. We've all been working hard, all from the little tiny no stoplight town here in Fancy Gap, Virginia, in the heart of rural Appalachia, doing our best to try to get the program out into the hands of as many schools who might like to use it. With your help, not only can we make the platform strong enough to handle every single school in the country, and hopefully eventually beyond, but with your help, we can make the platform available for every single school who might like to use it for the entire 21-22 school year absolutely free, so that it'd be available across the entire economic spectrum. Because every kid, everywhere, could use a positive, uplifting message to show up unexpectedly. Just like every kid, everywhere, could use that feeling they get down inside when they help or uplift someone else. So whether you might possibly consider supporting us financially to back us, to make this project come alive for everyone, or whether you might possibly consider sharing our project with someone else that you know that might like to support it, we'd like to say thank you. Because in doing so, you'd be helping us help kids help each other. So on behalf of students, teachers, parents, and grandparents everywhere, thank you for your possible consideration.